Hi there, and welcome to FridAI with me, Billy McLaughlin. We have got tons to cover today, so I'm going to jump straight in with a report that I was reading by Synergy Research. And they talk about how there's been a lull in the expansion of cloud infrastructure over the last few years. But recently, the revenue has increased to 74 billion in the sector, which is up 12 billion in the last 12 months. And they're putting this down to the use of AI across the world in the mainstream, and we are seeing how much more easily accessible it is. OpenAI have just announced that they've hit a revenue of 2 billion and they expect to double it, that's right, double it by next year, which just blows my mind. There was also another report that I was reading by MIT, and this one kind of goes in to say about how AI is going to replace us and take our jobs, which I think is super applicable to the accountancy sector. We are seeing this scaremongering all the time. Now, this report does give us a little bit of good news, and it explains that only 23% of the jobs that we initially thought were going to be taken will actually not be. And I think that's because, I'm assuming, it's because we are seeing a huge amount of work and effort that is needed to integrate these systems, customize them to what works for our practice, and therefore maybe adoption is not going to be as quick as initially thought. The other thing to consider, and it's quite difficult to comprehend this as laymen that we are, is that there is a cost associated with running these AI systems behind the scenes, and therefore the cost of that is quite high. Now, because they are predicting a reduction of 20% per year, they are saying that will increase the amount of usage. But I mean, I don't really understand how they can calculate that linearly, but hey, they've done the report. Another thing I think will slow down the adoption of AI, and I'm sure a lot of you saw this on Tom Herbert's post recently, is the fear. I mean, there's that poor guy who has just been conned out of $20 million. And if you haven't seen this, it was a deepfake video that was done. He thought he was on a call with the top dog of his company, and he transferred money to 5 different bank accounts in the sum of $20 million. So I will tag a link to that in case anybody would like to read further. All I could say about that is let's take a lesson from it. Let's make sure that we have all the processes in place to ensure that our security is keeping up with technology, because it's not a case of, well, we adopted this a few years ago, let's stick with it. These things need to evolve at the same pace as the technology that we're using. Another thing just to bring up when we're talking about safety, actually, and I probably wasn't going to mention this, but there will be a lot of parents on here. OpenAI have now decided that they're going to establish an entire team that will support the safety of children using artificial intelligence. And I think this is such a fantastic idea, because it must be worrying as a parent seeing your children online. But the other thing that we have to think is this is our workforce of the future. So these children, if they are being taught the best way to use these systems in a safe and ethical way, and they're going to be coming into our workplace in the next couple of decades, then that is great news. I feel like I've been a little bit negative today. I think there's been a lot of doom and gloom in the press, especially around the tech space. But 2 pieces of software I do want to tell you about, which is really good news. The first is XBert. Now, they've come over from Australia. They are very big over there, and they are an artificially intelligence-powered practice management system. I'll be getting a bit more about these next week when I meet one of the team, but I think it's such a fantastic idea. And if it's going to make our lives easier as practitioners when it comes to running the business, I am all ears. The second is probably one of the biggest announcements of the year so far, which is Google Gemini. You may remember a while back, Google Bard was announced as the major competitor for ChatGPT. And unfortunately, Google Bard is no more. They have replaced this with Google Gemini Advanced. It's also called Google Ultra, so just be aware, Google Advanced powered by Google Ultra, it's all the same thing. It is actually looking like it's better than ChatGPT, in my opinion. It's 2 times faster, and the use cases for it are fantastic. It's £19 a month. You get 2 months for free, and you also get different use cases in terms of what you would get if you were part of the workspace community. So you get, say, enhanced storage and all that as well. I do want to give you a little bit of a warning if you are using it. So the first is that they use occasional rerouting, which means if you ask it something basic, it may reroute you to one of its lower models. And that is because, as I said earlier, the cost of running these systems, if they can save money and not use their enhanced version to answer a simple question like tell me a joke, it will reroute you. And the second is that they are using humans to review everything. So I'm not saying everything will be looked at by a human, but there is a chance that anything that goes on there could be put in front of a human to look through. I think this is fantastic because I think we do need that human sense check. But similarly, it is quite frightening. So do not put anything on there that you do not want somebody else to read. That is all from me this week. I'll be back next week with more tech news and gossip in the AI space. Have a great weekend.